Wondering what life is really like on Canada's wild and crazy West Coast? This podcast is all about the people, the places, and Vancouver Island time. Together, we'll explore this island paradise, a combination of ocean, city, and country living. We'll meet the fabulous locals such as the Fudge Fairy and the Chicken Lady, who have chosen Victoria and Vancouver Island as their home. And we'll learn what makes this place unique and special to those who live here. And now, your host of Vancouver Island Time, Jane Johnston.
Hi, everybody. It's Jane Johnston. I'm with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun, and I'm the host of Vancouver Island Time. I'd like to welcome today Karen McCoy. We're going to be talking about the North Saanich area, which is right near the ferries. So it's just north of the marina and about probably 2-minute drive away from the ferries going to Vancouver. So great for people who want to commute back and forth to Vancouver and those who are into international travel. So tell me about this area and how did you come to find it? Because it is kind of hidden away.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was actually kind of a mistake. We were living in Ottawa at the time, which, as you know, is very snowy. My son was diagnosed with a condition, neuromuscular condition. So we knew in time he would be needing a wheelchair, and Ottawa wasn't the place. So I got online and I found a realtor who I thought was in Victoria because I had lived up island before. And my husband, who's a builder, said, I don't care where we move as long as I have an airport, because he was working throughout Canada. So I always wanted to return to the island. So I looked up Victoria and found a realtor, and he said, no, you don't want to go there because your son needs accessibility. And I can show you a quaint little area where it's very accessible. And I live up that way near Sydney, North Saanich. And I'm like, okay, I'd never heard of that before. So I flew out and spent the weekend, and he took me around, and this lot came up at the end of a 3-day search, and it came up 10 minutes before I was leaving to fly back to Ontario. And I said, that's it. This is where we're coming.
That happens, you know. It's very strange. It's kind of serendipitous.
Yeah, definitely. And my husband, being a builder, he set the wheels in motion, and we lived in Ottawa while he was out here getting all the groundwork done. And it's fully accessible for our boy, and we've been here for about 18 years now.
Actually, I moved out here 18 years ago as well. So in 1999.
Oh, did we go out to the local pub together?
Probably. Okay, so you were you decided to move here. It actually is. So we're just north of Sydney, and then North Saanich is north and just west of that area. Do you go into Sydney for all your groceries and all that?
Mostly, yes. Yeah, I do go into Sydney. I'm probably there every day. And what we love about this is that my husband lived a lot of years in Vancouver. We have a lot of Vancouver friends. They can walk on, and they can walk to our house from the ferry. It's like a 5-minute walk, or we can pick them up. And the airport is really close for my husband, who doesn't use it anymore, but at the time he did. So everything was here. The schools were great. Everything was accessible. So North Saanich and Sydney, definitely, there are places.
And that's very sort of traditionally popular, Sydney is anyway, with retirees because it's unusually flat. So one of the unique things about living in Greater Victoria is you can live anywhere and have a view, literally, because it's hilly and then the ocean's right there. But here you have larger lots and it's quite heavily treed. We'll show you some pictures of what we're looking at. And I'm just wondering, what's the process of developing this area? Was it hard, easy to work?
My husband, being a builder, he knew how to maneuver it. Probably the biggest challenge was the rock and the trees when we came here. When we came here, we did our due diligence to check into the community plan to see what was being built. This lot actually hadn't sold for a long time because it would get dark at 2 p.m. because that whole development wasn't there. So it was really, really thick. And I love rural settings anyways. I've always lived in the country. So it didn't bother me at all. And then we knew that that road was going in, and sure enough, a few years later, they started work, and it opened up all this light. So it is different. We don't get views, but we get total privacy. We have 64 windows in our house, and we don't see a neighbor, although they're all around us. And that is the beauty of it. It's outside, inside living, which is part of our goal as well.
So I lived in Metchosin at a school that was in the forest, like very similar to this, actually. It reminds me of it a lot. And I found people from, we had over 100 countries represented, but people from places where there aren't trees often feel overwhelmed and overshadowed by the trees. Other people felt like they were in a warm hug. Which are you?
It's a warm hug, definitely. Yes. It better be after this long.
And what was your perception moving here from another city? I know it was a long time ago, but for me, when I moved here, I moved from Toronto. I felt like, oh my God, like when's winter? Did you feel that?
Well, when I first left Ontario, I was 18 and I moved out to Banff. So I was there for a long, long time. So it was like outdoor city and lots of trees and stuff. I then moved to Vancouver for a couple of years, and it probably took me 2 years to get used to the weather and the rain and the dark. But we get about a third less rain here, as I'm sure you know. Being on this peninsula, a lot of people equate us with Vancouver rain, and we just don't get it. So we've got the best of both worlds, really.
Actually, I was, so I live on the southern tip, and yesterday, the last few days, there's been a lot of wind, which I find just pushes the weather. Like we're in the rain shadow of the Olympic Mountains, and it just pushes the weather. And I hear about the weather in Vancouver, and it's just like totally overcast. So I went to a conference there last year, and they had overcast for 3 months and hadn't seen the sun, which here, as you'll see, and behind us, you know, it's really quite bright. So what about transitioning to Victoria? How was that for you?
Oh, it was fairly easy because I didn't like Ottawa. So it was easy. The weather's too extreme there, and it's just a different style of living. And I lived up island in the Nanaimo Duncan area. I went to school at Malaspina, which is now Vancouver Island. Yeah. So I lived up there, and when I left, I cried the whole time. So I knew I always wanted to make my life back here on the island for sure. So it really was just like coming home.
Yeah, for me, it was, I visited in my teens and I thought I'm going to live there because it's so beautiful here. Okay, so people who are moving here want to know things like, where do you go to eat? And, you know, what's your favorite restaurant in the area? And, you know, what do you do for fun?
Eat and drink. Okay, so we've got a couple faves. We have Stonehouse Pub, which we can walk to through the woods. We actually got married there, and we walked to the ceremony, and we stumbled back. And they're great. They're really casual. They're close. The other favorite place is Surly Mermaid. We love that one.
Where's that?
That's right on the water by the pier, Rum Runner. It's in that area. So Surly Mermaid is a favorite of ours. And, of course, the two at the end, the Beacon and the pier, also our go-tos. So we have our little circle that we do.
Those are in Sydney, the last two.
They're all in, yeah, those right at the end on the water. Gorgeous.
And what do you do for entertainment?
Gosh.
Do you go to the market?
Yeah, Thursday nights, not all the time. I try to sneak the dogs in if I can. I do a lot of outdoor stuff around here. I walk and hike with my puppies a lot every day. We're at Horth Hill. That's another lovely park. I don't know how big it is, but it is a fabulous in the woods off-leash park. And I think I've met all my neighbors there. It's a lovely place to go to. And beaching it. We beach a lot as well. So keep busy.
So one of the things when I moved here in 99, I was up at UVic, and there was talk of a whale in the water. Have you seen many whales in the water?
No, I haven't.
So I've been boating around here as well, and I've seen little tiny porpoises as well.
Yeah, I've seen those. When we were building the house, we actually rented a place on 2nd Street in Sydney, and One of the great things about living in Sydney that I miss is being able to walk to Starbucks in the morning. And I remember one morning, it was in October-ish, walking to Starbucks at like 6:30 in the morning, and it was dead silent, and the water was so still, and all you could hear was this wispy sound. And I looked out, and there was 3 or 4 porpoises just cutting through the water. And I went, wow, I live here. That's amazing.
I know, it is amazing.
Yeah, it's something people say, do you take it for granted? Never, ever. We're just so blessed. And in this area too, we have recently in the last few years, we now have deer, which we didn't have. How they got here, I'm not sure if they walked across the overpass, but when we moved here, we didn't have any of that. But we now have a family of about half a dozen deer, and of course, tons of raccoons, and now rabbits. So, it's just populated in great ways, actually.
It's like a Disney movie.
It is, yes.
Okay, so because you live in what a lot of people would say far away from downtown Victoria, do you get downtown? And I don't consider it that far. It only took me 20 minutes to get up here. And the traffic was heavy because people were going to the ferry. So you have to time your traffic around the ferry. But what about going into the city?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, I have a home-based business, so I don't have to commute, which I love. I absolutely love my commute is about 20 steps away in the studio. And that's my one gym. And then one studio is in the gym. The other is in my office. But yeah, I probably get there once a week if I want to do a bigger shop or just to get out. And honestly, our whole world does have to evolve around the ferry times, but we know them well. It's easier in the winter time, and you just have to book your time in. But I can be downtown in 20 to 30 minutes. So, and I have also lived remote for a lot of my life. Banff to Calgary was over an hour. Sun Peaks to Kamloops was over an hour. So for me, it really is just a walk in the park. But I understand a lot of people do think it's a long ways away.
Yeah, I don't find it that hard, especially from Toronto. I mean, I drove an hour and a half to work and an hour and a half back. And my brother, who lives near Ottawa, drives across the border into Quebec all the time. So it's not bad.
Well, when you think about the drive, I mean, it's beautiful, right? It's gorgeous. It's not flatlands. There's always something. You're seeing ocean vistas and mountain views. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, really.
Anything that you wish was on Vancouver Island that's not here right now?
IKEA. IKEA would be good. IKEA boys, come to the island.
There's an IKEA bus.
We'll support you, I promise. Yes, we'll get a bus.
No, there is a bus. There's a bus that goes to IKEA from downtown Victoria, and if you spend more than $200, it's free. Or there used to be. I don't know if there still is, but anyway, yeah, that's the only thing. There are two in Vancouver, right?
I believe so. Yeah, we go there when we need to. We do the IKEA run. We have Costco. We have, and they're talking about a Costco out in Sydney area. That seems to be a contentious issue. I don't know, but I would welcome it for sure.
Well, I tell you, being on the West Shore, it does increase the traffic a lot, Costco.
Yeah, I would imagine, but I also think that it would be ideal for people coming off the ferry just to turn off and get their goods for the weekend, right? Always thinking about the other people.
Okay, going up island, which way do you go? Brentwood Ferry or around?
I usually go around. I like the Brentwood Bay Ferry, but we usually go around. We like to drive. My husband and I enjoy driving. That's one of the few things that we do and enjoy together. So, we're drivers. We drive.
Okay, and top 3 things you think, if somebody's coming to visit Victoria, what do you recommend?
Going out for dinner.
Lots of good restaurants here.
Lots of good restaurants for sure. And I always ask what they're into. Usually it's a nice BC fare of salmon or something like that. There's, I'm just trying to think. There's so many things to do depending on the season. Going to the Inner Harbor is one of our faves. Absolutely, because you can spend a whole day down there. And then closer would be Bouchard Gardens and maybe a wine tour at the winery.
Oh, Seasider or?
The Seasider is one, and then the other one, which used to be Church and State. I think it's changed names now. Doesn't matter. They still have wine. It's all good.
Is the wine good, do you find? Seriously?
Yes, I'm always promoting BC wines. I rarely don't buy BC wines because they're fabulous. And every year we do a tour through the Okanagan. We're heading out next week. And I used to live in Ontario, and they've got good wines, but they'd have nothing on BC. Sorry, Ontario.
Okanagan or island wines?
I prefer Okanagan. I need to broaden my horizons with the island wines for sure. What's your fave?
Oh, I'll drink anything. If somebody else is buying.
Good. I'll buy.
No, I like a Pinot Grigio.
Okay. What winery do you like here on the island?
Usually I buy like an Okanagan wine. Actually, I haven't bought. I did have a client who owned Silverside, which was a berry winery, and that was really good.
Nice. Well, I think we need to get out. We need to test drive.
And speaking of berries, actually, it's coming up on blackberry season. Do you pick blackberries?
Oh yeah, yeah, I mean, I think I've got some little nettles in there to prove it. Absolutely, and they're everywhere. We have a lot of people because the marina's right down there too. We get the boat people. We lovingly call them boat people because we love them. But we get a whole harvest of people out there getting their berries. We have a ton here.
Yeah, you're in Victoria when you see people at the side of the road with a big bucket, just like reaching into the bushes. Okay, so we've given you probably, I think, a pretty good overview of what it's like to live in North Saanich and from somebody who's living here. So we're going to talk about your business. So that'll be in our next segment. So stay tuned and tune in. We're on Vancouver Island Time on Facebook. We're on VancouverIslandTime.com. We're on TuneIn, iTunes, and Stitcher. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Vancouver Island Time is brought to you by the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun, Victoria, where we bring local expertise and global presence to your property.
Hi, my name is Jane Johnston. I'm with the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun, and I'm here with Karen McCoy with WarriorWomanFitness.com. So tell me about how you got into this industry, the fitness industry. There's lots of variations and different types. I'm a former phys ed teacher, and I've worked out my whole life. How did you come to choose the way you conduct your business?
Well, my whole business is weight training. I got involved with training with weights when I was 21. I left Ontario after high school, moved out to Banff, Alberta, a mecca for fitness. And I then had a boyfriend who was into bodybuilding, and there was a magazine, and I picked it up, and it was back then, that was 1982. It was all men. You had to do the math there. And there was one little picture of a girl, maybe 2 inches by 2 inches in the back page. And she was on the pec deck, which is where you're working your chest. And she was a model, and she was using weight training to tone. And I looked at that picture and went, wow, that's amazing. I said, I'd love to have that. And he said, we'll start training with weights. So it was hard for me because there was no women doing it back then. And I remember I signed up at the little local gym, and I was in there, and a coach for the women's downhill ski team came in with all the girls from the downhill ski team. And they were training with weights, and they were not a word was spoken between them, and they were so diligent and so focused in their training. They had great physiques, and they were squatting and benching, and I just watched and went, wow. And that started my love affair with weight training. And then from there, I trained for about 6 or 7 years, and I moved to Whistler. My first show was here in Victoria, 1991, Royal Theatre. And it was bodybuilding because that's all we had back then. And it was my first show. I was 30 years old. And it was interesting because I won the overall and won every class. And that kind of started my interest in competition. And I've always been drug-free, always been organic. Things have certainly changed in the industry, but I've always maintained that promise to myself. And that was a long time ago. And my now husband was actually sitting in the audience with his then wife and remembered me. And when we met 25 years later, he's like, you were the girl in the black bathing suit.
That's very interesting. Isn't life weird?
It's very weird. I don't question it anymore, but it's always interesting what shows up.
So who's your ideal client?
Women. over 40. And I say over 40, okay, over 35, because that's what I consider the aging woman. I'm sorry, but if you're 35, you are aging. That's when the body starts to change. And I got certified in as a weight training coach, and I got certified as a sports nutritionist, and I've been doing that ever since. So I've been doing it for 35 years. I worked a lot in gyms. I just found that the gym model was getting a little outdated, especially the last 8 years or so. Women were paying a lot of fees. They were in a structured setting. If they couldn't make the class, they'd miss the class. There was no support outside of class. I also had my son who had special needs, and he was needing me more at home. And I thought, I have to take this from the gym model and create my own online training. And I remember people at the facility were saying, you can't do that. People want to train in the gym. And I said, well, no, I think there can be another model. That was 10 years ago when nobody was really doing it. So I created everything from the ground up. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I cater solely to women because I am one, and I know the challenges of not just getting physically and nutritionally in shape, but we have challenges, we have stresses, we're mothers, we're wives, we have aging bodies, we have hormones. So that all comes into play in all of my Warrior Woman programming for sure. And a big element is the emotional and the spiritual as well, because I've lived that journey deeply for a long time with my son who has very, very big challenges.
So do you find that, are people coming to you after they've had a health scare? So when I was a teenager, I remember reading some research saying, that working out was good for young girls, which was very strange at the time. So it was 1980. Anyway. And then later on, I just did it because I did some unusual sports. I was a shot put and discus thrower. Wow. I played baseball, and I was a big swimmer, and I did kind of alternative sports always. But I'm just wondering, so I was into it because it was involving a lot of cross training for me, and I didn't know what cross training was. I was just doing it. But do you find do you get people who are building their fitness? Do you get people who have never done fitness, and what's the range of your clientele?
I would say what they all have in common is that they're losing their physique. Or they perhaps are looking around and saying, well, I never had that physique, I want that physique. And so women aging 35, 40, 50, 60, I have 70-year-olds, they want their shape and tone back. And weight training, when I was doing it, nobody was really doing it, and they didn't understand it. And there's very little research on women who have been weight training for decades. There's a lot of research on women who have done cardio or marathon, that kind of training, but very few on us. And now the science is starting to always catch up. I always say experience trumps science. Unless you want to be a brain surgeon, then you better have science. But really, there's few of us that have been in it that long, but they're starting to look at it and go, oh yeah, it is different. It's a different physiology, different results. And I think women are getting more courageous about saying, I want my shape back. I want to have nice arms. I want to have tighter glutes. I want to feel good in my skin, right? That's what women want. And they're being brave enough now in this day and age to say it. And that's the really cool thing, is they're starting to recognize what their potential is. And I think too, it's not really about pushing away disease, although that's always a part of it as well, or pushing that away. There is so much stuff out there. People are so confused. The biggest part now, it used to be 20 years ago, the biggest part was trying to convince them to train and eat well. Now my biggest part is trying to just untether all the crazy stuff out there, all the different trendy diets and all the different things that are coming at women and confusing them and almost creating obsessive compulsiveness in their nutrition, and they're all caught up in stuff. And I'm all about simplicity, back to basics, food freedom, man. I don't want you at my house if you're going to have an app on your hip and you're going to put everything in the app, okay? We're not supposed to eat like that. And women are starting to recognize, a lot of my women have been on diets for years, and they're like, I just don't want to live like that anymore. And so that's the majority of the women that are coming to me.
Yeah, I find it's interesting so we row every morning and then we go for breakfast. It's interesting to see what everybody else orders, right? And some people bring their own, and they bring shakes and stuff like that. There's more of a trend now towards kind of like shake and go. Do you find that?
I do, and I'm not really supportive of it. I'm not really supportive of a lot of what the majority does. I have a saying, if the majority is doing it, it's a good reason to not do it because they don't have it right. I really am whole foods based. I do very few shakes. It's another mentality where you try to grab something quick and easy like that. I love food. I love burgers. I love steak. I love to eat. And I know as a smaller person, I don't get to eat as much. So I know where my tolerance level is for calories and portions, and I'm not going to waste it on liquid. But also what it does is it kind of dulls the metabolic fires as well. So that's something that I'm trying to teach my women to is use them as a quick fix, but every day is not a quick fix. That's a lifestyle. And it's just, there's so much marketing out there. Sports drinks and protein bars. This is the way I look at it. Whole foods diet, if you can't pick it or pluck it, hunt it or fish it, it's not a whole food. And people will say, yeah, but a protein bar is made from whole foods, but it's still processed and your body still knows that. And we are so blessed to live here on the island with the bounty of farms and fresh fruit and everything that, there are places, I remember when I was up in Thunder Bay, Thunder Bayers, I love it there, but it was hard to find organic stuff. When I went to the supermarket and asked for the organic, they looked at me like I had a third eye. So we are so blessed to have what we have here, and also to be able to walk onto our local farms and see our cattle and see our chickens running around, which we don't get to do in commercial farming or the big pharma anywhere else. It's such a blessing, and to support the farmers and have a direct relationship with our farmers and our butchers. That's something that I really, really honor.
Yeah, that's really popular where I live. And they have the farmers market that we go to on Sunday mornings sometimes to purchase stuff. Okay, so tell me about your video and your online programs that you use with your clientele.
So I have the Warrior Woman Fitness and Lifestyle Community. It's a monthly paid program. That is my main thing. I run 5 programs at once. A lot of them are to get women involved in just starting into learning about our philosophies and what we do. I have a 10-week Best Shape Challenge, 12-week Advanced Best Shape Challenge. I have a Walk with Spirit, which is all about spiritual health and wellness. I have a metabolism course because we have to learn to get it right and understand what metabolism is. And the Warrior Woman program, warriorwomanfitness.com, is where about 90% of my women stay. And I've had women on the program since it started like 8 years ago. And we do monthly workouts. We do nutritional videos. We do spiritual work. I have over 1,500 videos that I've amassed, and I have my own studio, my own gym. I do them in there and I send them out. I have a very active Facebook page. It's private, and we do a lot of we have a Friday check-in. We have Monday masterminds. We have different topics. When new women come on, my community, I'm so proud of them. They're so supportive. They are there as a group, as a resource, and to help women be able to manage, because it's scary still for a lot of women to come into an online program. The biggest question I get is, well, how does it work? So I offer a free trial for 30 days. Come in, check it out, see how you like it, because in marketing, they say, don't tell, show. So this way we can show, I can get them in, and group training in this environment, it's 24/7, accessible anywhere, and I'm there every single day. So it's just so financially feasible for a lot of women too, because I recognized a lot of women were struggling with the cost of the other model. Other model is great. Being in the gym with a trainer has its place, but this is another model I can offer.
And it can supplement it.
Definitely. I have a lot of women that do the program, and they'll go in and grab a trainer and also use the gym facilities. So this is about taking your card, which is you can watch it from your phone, your iPad, taking it to the gym wherever you are. And I have women in 5 different countries, and it's always growing because people are starting to catch on about the value of an online program. And like I say, it has to be supportive, has to deliver good product, and it has to be accessible as well.
What I find too is that once you are in that community, that you realize that first of all, you're not strange for wanting that. So you have like-minded people who are going to influence you, but also, it's not like you turn 70 and give up and stop exercising. I row with a guy who's 80 years old, and he's one of the best rowers in our club. So it's a mindset, right? Do you find there's a bit of resistance at the beginning of people? Because it's really changing the little habits, right?
Well, you're always going to have resistance.
Resistance is futile.
Yes, I know. But, it is about, I'm a habits-based coach. And so we change 1 or 2 habits at a time, because what I see is a lot of women want to come in and do it all. And I understand that because we're super women, right? They want to come in and do it all, or they want to lose, 20 pounds in 20 days. So I really have to kind of set them straight. That's the first thing. But what I also suggest is when they're in the Facebook group, which is really, it's so supportive. They really need to be there. They know that they're not alone when they ask a question. And I think that's a big thing, is they're validated. I'm nervous to go into a gym, or I don't understand this, or I'm having challenges with this. And other women are there. It's kind of like being in a coffee shop with 150 other women. They're there to be able to say, I get it. I know it's frustrating. I know about feeling impatient and all that kind of stuff. So we learn that we're not alone. And I think that's probably the biggest, the greatest thing about what we can do with online.
And I find, because I do a lot of online coordination of different groups, that what it does is creates mentorship.
Oh, definitely. And you see them in the making too. And that's really cool. And I have a small group of ambassadors, and those ambassadors have been with me for years. And I use them according to their own strengths and what they offer. I have one woman that's an amazing chef, and she puts up all of these meals to help women to understand how to put together a meal, what it looks like, what healthy looks like. I have another woman that's really great when it comes to being able to manage different workouts at home, like a lot of women want to train at home. So it's about meeting women where they're at and then using their strengths. And I'm very blessed to have the women I do, for sure.
So biggest myth around weight training for women?
Boy, I would say probably the biggest myth still, I've been debunking it for 35 years, is that they're going to get big and bulky. And man, I'm still waiting on that one. It takes a long, long time. It used to be that protein was not a good thing because it would bulk you out. It's funny how I just did a whole little video on this, how protein has changed. We despised it, then we kind of liked it, then we put it aside thinking we're going to look like that big muscle woman. And now everybody loves their protein. So again, it's really about keeping your cool through all the trends as a coach. Right.
Yeah, I do find in anything that's subject to trends. Okay, so if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do so?
WarriorWomanFitness.com is always there. My email is there. You can also,
what is your email?
My email is Karen@McCoyFitness.ca. I'm always there. I'm on Facebook under Karen McCoy or Karen McCoy Fitness. I'm so accessible.
So it's MCCOY. Sorry. Karen McCoy, KarenMcCoy. Okay. All right. So you've had a great introduction to Karen and warriorwomanfitness.com. And if you're interested in learning more about other areas and other people in business in Victoria, you can check us out in our website at Vancouver Island Time. We're at vancouverislandtime.com. We're on Facebook as Vancouver Island Time. We're also on TuneIn, iTunes, Stitcher, and Spreaker now. So if you have any questions about real estate in the area, give me a call. My name is Jane Johnston. I'm with the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun and host of Vancouver Island Time. Have a great day and welcome to the neighborhood.
Welcome to the neighborhood. We hope you have had some insight into West Coast living. If you know of someone or someplace that should be highlighted in our podcast, we love to hear from you. please go to VancouverIslandTime.com and click on our Connect button. See you next week on Vancouver Island Time with Jane Johnston.